Hi, I'm Jeff. This is Tropical Plants at 53 degrees north. Now, we all like a good whinge and a moan, don't we, occasionally? So today I'm going to have a whinge and a moan about my experiences buying orchids and plants online. And we're going to ask the question, why do orchid sellers and growers do this? Let's jump in. And we're in. And just before I get started, I thought you might want to see this. So people who follow the channel will know that I've had this orchid for 2 years. It was a division and it was bought completely blind. I had no idea what the actual flower looked like, and this is the first bloom that's come on it in 2 years. The first one in the first year blasted, and this was 2 buds, one of them blasted and one has actually finally made it to fruition, and actually I'm really pleased with that. That is no ID Cattleya, but I think that's lovely. I don't think I've seen one like that before. At the moment there's no scent to it, but you never know, as it matures a little bit I might see. This is the first day actually that it's been in full bloom, so I might actually get a scent on it a little bit later. So this video is all about what happens when you get plants that you buy online and the various problems that I've had anyway with the different plants that I've purchased. Now I know some people might go and say, well, you know, if you're going to buy them online, you're buying them unseen, mostly unseen. I know they can put photographs on there, mostly unseen, so you get what you deserve really. It's the case of buyer beware, isn't it? But I've made a list anyway, and I just want to make a few little clarifications and disclaimers before I jump into my list. So this is my take on it. This is my opinion on what it's more of a wish list really, and it's what I think it would be really good for growers and sellers to do for, well, really for improving their business. If they want to improve what they're offering and they want more people to kind of spread the word around, then this might be something that they can look at. And now I have businesses, only 2 little ones, and I know myself how costs play a very big part, and I guess this is probably one of the reasons why they do what they do, because of costs, and they need to make a profit as well. And I also realise that you tend to get what you pay for, and if you pay a little bit more then you might not get quite so many problems with them. So having said all that, I think if I just tell you that it's more of a wish list. So this is a wish list of what I wish they would do if costs were not prohibitive, and if maybe they were looking to increase and improve their reputation, this might be something that they might consider looking at. Now, many people again who watch my videos will know the main source that I get mine from, so I'm not going to mention it again. It wouldn't be fair for me to mention it again, because this list is not just from there, it's from lots of places, and I do realise that this particular place do have lower prices, so that may be a reason for it. So okay, in no particular order, let's start with what I've got down here. So these are a couple of new ones. Well, the one on the right you've seen, the one on the left is a new one that you've not seen. So this is an RLC, so that's a Rhyncholaleo Cattleya. The actual label is a little bit wrong. Let me just pick up the label. I see the label says RLC, now I don't know how you pronounce that, Chia Lin, but actually that middle I shouldn't be there, so it should be Chia or Chia. That's a Chia Lin. Chia Lin is, as I've researched and found out, was the person who first listed this particular cross. So Chia Lin. So I've seen those 2 names written together as Chia Lin, or separate Chia Lin, red cat, magenta doll. So that I in the middle, I'm going to have to cross it out because that shouldn't be there. And it tells you what the cross is. So it's a Cattleya, a lowercase, cross with a Rhyncholaleo Cattleya red cat. Okay, very nice plant. So my first gripe is the pots. So why do they always put them in opaque pots? Now clearly there's no problem with the growth of the plant. I mean, this one's in a really bizarre kind of plasticky thing. It looks like it's, I don't know, it looks like some kind of homemade thing that wasn't originally a pot. So why not stick them in transparent pots? Now again, it depends whereabouts you live. Now obviously I live where I live. I live in a temperate country, and experience, only a short experience really, only I'd say seriously for 12 months, non-seriously for a couple of years, I found one of the biggest killers of orchids is not just overwatering, but what happens to that water once it's in the pot. The fact that the pot doesn't dry out anywhere nearly as quickly as it does in some other countries, certainly some tropical areas. Now, pretty obvious, I know, but it's always hard to tell unless you've got a transparent pot. And if I come over here, over here is almost like a rose gallery of orchids that I've saved, because over the last couple of years the cold and the wet has damaged them to the point of completely losing the roots, and it's only by having it in a transparent pot that you can really keep an eye on it. So if these plants that I'm buying in the UK are being grown in the UK, why not have them in a transparent pot? Wouldn't that make much more sense, so that when they came you could see what they were like? Now whether these are actually imported or not, I have no idea, but that would be useful anyway. So for whatever the reason, I would love to see it in a transparent pot when it arrived. Okay, so that's my first little gripe. Another little gripe, weeds in pots. So now some people might actually like these. I think, I'm trying to remember the name, I think this is some kind of a shamrock maybe. It looks similar to one. I'm not really sure, I'll have to look it up. Now I am not that bothered about weeds in pots. I don't really mind them that much. I have got, I'll just show you, just kind of back up very quickly. Oops, I've got to destroy my plants. So this phlebodium was a weed that was in a pot, and you very often get phlebodium ferns in pots because they grow in the same places that the orchids grow. They're epiphytic, they grow up in the trees, and you can see all the spores there. It's very easy for a spore like that to drop into an orchid pot, or drop into where an orchid is, wherever it's collected. So you can't really blame them, but when they arrive and there's already a big weed in it, it kind of makes you wonder why they've not pulled it out. So it's not really a massive gripe, but it does make you wonder why they leave them in. So that's a couple of little gripes. So the transparency of the pot and having weeds in the pots. So when it's in transit, okay, I really wish they would take more care of the blooms when it's in transit. Now this one you can see, now this one is really fragrant. I can smell it from here, it's lovely. But you can see how these blooms have been battered. Now this particular seller does actually take quite good care of them, and they put a stick in the box so that the stick is actually in the pot, and it always goes above the bloom, so the bloom isn't actually bashing against the side of the pot. But wouldn't it be nice to have a little bit of separate packaging around the bloom, just to protect it a little bit, like people do when they're taking blooms to shows? Again, I know it's probably cost prohibitive, but we're talking about a wish list here. It would be nice, especially with an orchid, because orchids tend to take a good length of time before they rebloom. So once these blooms are over, then I've probably another year to wait until my next ones. Not always, but very often you've a long time to wait. So it would be nice if they would take care of the blooms that are actually on it when they send it. So still talking about transit, another gripe is that very often, well, certainly in my experience, you don't get the plant that's in the photo. Now wouldn't it be so great to know what you are getting? You know exactly the particular plant that you are purchasing. That would be useful. Again, probably cost prohibitive, time prohibitive maybe, because they've got to keep photographing individual plants and then uploading them. But it would be useful, you know. So wish list, it would be great to know this is the plant you're buying, so you know precisely what it looks like. And that would probably get rid of a lot of the returns. You know, it would really reduce the number of people asking for refunds because it's not the plant that they thought that they were going to get. But still talking about in transit, how many plants do we get online that when they arrive, again, still talking about orchids, how many plants do we get that are soaking wet when they come? Why not let them dry out? A soaking wet plant in the UK, if it's going to be sent by post, probably 2/3 of the year at least is going to be too cold for it. It's kept overnight somewhere, probably in temperatures below 10 degrees Celsius. If all the roots are soaking wet, it's not going to like it. You know, you can see cold damage on these plants over here. I mean, most of the cold damage I've cut off now, but you can still see the remnants of cold damage from when it went down to 7 degrees Celsius in like February, March time. So orchids don't like cold. So why not give them a little bit more of a chance anyway, and wait for them to dry out before sending them off? So that's something else. Sending plants with no roots. So let me think. Over here I have this plant. Let's just see if I can hold it still there. Okay, so this is a Laelia anceps, bought in January. This is my second Laelia anceps because the first one came and it didn't have one root on it, not one single root, and it also didn't have one single growth on it either, but it did have a flower. Now, it's great to see a bloom, really nice, but when you start to get into orchids and you know what's coming next, it can be a little off-putting if you've bought one and it doesn't have roots. This one does. This one's grown them. This is the second one, and it was really nice of them to return it and send one that did have some growth coming on it. You can't see them, there's some growth underneath, you can see some eyes underneath. It's growing the roots first, or at least I know it's got the roots on it. So that's another gripe. When they send them and it looks on the face of it that it's a nice healthy plant, but when you dig down you find that there's not one single live root on it, and there's not one single eye that looks like it's about to burst. Now I know that depends on the time of the year. It's really the roots that I'm more concerned about, that they send you one with no roots whatsoever. Now I know orchids have this remarkable ability to recover, as I've found out quite recently, which brings me to this big one over here. Now when this one arrived, this one's just a Cattleya hybrid, purchased November last year. This one, fantastic big new growths, try not to knock them off, great, lots of roots coming on it now. But this one was in quite a small pot, and the roots were, I would say there was more roots out of the pot than there were in the pot. It wouldn't even stand up. It was this great big thing that was probably 3 or 4 years, maybe even 5 years due for a repot. So why not sort that out? The roots were all dead. Every single root was dead when it came. However, it was in bloom. Now again, it's a wish list. We're looking for optimal, what I really would like as an optimal purchase. Yes, I would like it in bloom, but I would really prefer it to be in a pot that's the right size, to have a good root system, and to know that I've got a good long-term plant there, not just one that's going to be in bloom for a month or two, and then we're looking at how we're going to get it to survive. If you're new to my channel, click the subscribe button, ding the notification bell, and you won't miss any updates. Okay, so for my next little gripe, I have to unpot this RLC Cheerlin Red Cat Magenta doll. So have a look at this. Now this is great, it's got new growths on it, fabulous. Got some nice blooms even though they look very battered. So let's just have a look inside the pot. Now if this was transparent pot, I'd be able to see, wouldn't I? So have a look at that. So basically what we've got here is a very dense, matted, very old sphagnum moss plug. And all they've done is, I'm guessing anyway, that this is what it was originally grown in, and they've taken that, plonked it in a pot quite recently by the look of it, because there's no new roots anywhere around there. I think a lot of these are dead, some of them are not. The new ones certainly, the outer ones certainly seem to be, and they've just surrounded it by some coarse bark and a little bit of pumice. I mean, it's clearly, in the defence, it's not made any difference to the plant. The plant still looks healthy, but I'm guessing that wherever it was grown, all the other conditions were optimal. So maybe it was grown somewhere in a warm place, a warm country, it might even be one of these, you know, ones that's grown in a factory. When I say factory, I mean like one where all the environmental conditions are controlled, like a computer controlled environment. A lot of these big nursery stroke warehouses places, that's what they do. You know, they grow Phalaenopsis en masse, nobody touches them, they're all just completely 100% controlled by computers and systems that take care of the heating, the humidity, the temperature, the lighting, the whole lot. So in that case, having it in the same sphagnum moss might not make any difference, but the fact that it's being grown in the UK, sorry, not being grown, it's being bought in the UK, that is going to cause a problem for me. It's very, very wet, it arrived wet, and if I leave that in the bark, it's pointless having that bark around it, because it's so influenced by that. Even if I then put this in a transparent pot, all I would see would be the bark, and I wouldn't know that the inside was absolutely soaking wet. And in my environment where it's cold a lot of the time, it's dull, it's not sunny, that's going to cause a problem, and it's going to kill all the roots, and it's going to be too acidic as well. So it's all got to come out. So that would be on my wish list, for it not to be grown. It could be grown in there, but for it to be out of that and in the kind of media that will do well in this country. Again, probably likely to be very cost prohibitive for the grower or the seller, but it's a wish list, so it's on it. Okay, so I'm going to take you past this gorgeous hippeastrum over to this one. Very boring looking. I'm just looking for somewhere I can plonk it down while I talk to you. Over here. So this one is, you've not seen this one before. This is Dendrobium parthenium. I don't kind of read this very often because it doesn't do much. It's growing, new growths on it, some new roots. This is actually the second one that I've had. In fact, there are two in here. That was the original one. Not a lot to that. It's not dead. Anybody who knows orchids will know it's not dead. There is a tiny, tiny little growth on it. That one's a bit better. It's a seedling of a Dendrobium orchid. Now, how long will it take to bloom? Well, the last little bit of information I read said that it could take 12 to 15 years before it blooms. Now, when I bought this, it was one of these quick purchases. I think it was on eBay. You've got to be careful with eBay. You've got to make sure you don't buy quickly. You know what they say, buyer beware. Well, this was down to my ignorance, and once I'd learnt my lesson, wasn't to be done again. Gorgeous picture of a mature Dendrobium parthenium. Not sure how you pronounce it. Beautiful picture in full bloom. A pretty cheap price, and that should have been the warning sign. And when it came, this was what it was. And it came from a long, long way away. I think it was Thailand. Again, didn't notice this until it arrived about 2 months later. I think I'd completely forgotten about it. Because it took so long to come, it looked like it was almost dead on arrival. It's not dead, but it hasn't done so much, has it really? and I think the chances are pretty high that I'll lose patience with it before it does start to do something. But at the moment, it's not causing me much work. It is growing. This particular seedling was. I did complain about it, and they sent me another one, and that was it. So yeah, I think again it's a case of buyer beware. But again, we're on about a wish list. I wish they wouldn't, and it's happened to me on other occasions. This was a real extreme occasion, but I wish they wouldn't try and pull the wool over your eyes with the photograph. I wish, because it's happened with ferns as well. It's happened with various plants that I've bought where they've done a real close-up of something, and then when you've got it, it's been a tiny little plant, but they've quite clearly tried to make it look bigger than it is. It doesn't happen just with plants. It happens with all sorts of things online these days if you do buy them. I know people very often think that Amazon is some kind of just a shop in itself, and it's not. Anybody can sell on Amazon. It's not much different to eBay in that respect. I could set up an Amazon shop and sell stuff. You know, people tend to think that it's like buying from a chain department store, and it's not really. You can just as easily be swindled. So yeah, that's another gripe. But that's something that I think I've probably managed to solve myself by just being a little bit more careful to see where these things come from. I'm not even sure, actually I think I probably am, that it's not legal to sell plants, or maybe not to sell them, but to buy plants that are coming from another country. So I've been very careful about that since. But I did actually get one that was okay. I got a cherry baby, and that was fine, but I've not done it since because I don't want to get my wrists slapped. So they are my gripes that I can think of at the moment. So have you got much experience of buying online? And if you have, what are your experiences? Have I said everything? Have I mentioned every little problem that might occur when you buy online? Obviously, price does come into it. Not always, but it does come into it. I know for a fact that there are sellers that charge a lot more than I'm usually willing to pay. And in my particular case, I just move through here. In my particular case, I accept that where I get my orchids from, it's cheaper than most places, and I accept that I'm going to have to do, in most cases, a little bit of work with it when it comes. So whether that's repotting it, putting it in a different pot, trying to rescue it when it's no root, I accept that is going to be the case. On some occasions anyway. I would rather have more plants and try and rescue some of them than have every single plant to be absolutely perfect, have nothing to do with them, but pay a lot more. So it's down to you really, isn't it, whether you think that's something that's worth doing. Would you prefer to pay more, or would you rather do it the way I do it and take the odd risk and have a few more plants in your grow space or greenhouse or whatever? What do you think of this? This is Begonia Gryphon. It's really going for it at the moment. I really like it. I know it's not got any blooms on it, but I think those leaves are really sexy. If you can use that word to describe leaves. Maybe that's my age, if I'm finding leaves sexy now. Okay, so we'll leave you at that, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I'd really like to hear your experiences with buying online. And everything's looking really good at the moment, but we could do a bit more sunshine. I'm sick to death of this wind out there. It's horrendous. It's been like hurricane season, even though we don't get them. So I'll leave you there for now, and give us a like, a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. If you didn't, give me a thumbs down. I don't really mind one way or the other, so long as you interact and show that you're there. That's what I would like to see. Show me that you're there. I've noticed that these comments, since they moved the comment section, we're not getting as many comments. I think people don't know where it is. So the comments are still on, they're still turned on, they're just actually above all the videos, so it's worth having a look up there, see if you can find them. You've got to click on it to open them up. So for now anyway, I'll see you on the next one. Bye.